Greetings. This is General CJG here, coming to you with another State of Star Wars podcast, this time continuing with the Expanded Universe podcast due to last week having a bit of scheduling issues along with real-life priorities. We're back with EU podcasts, just as Mandalorian podcasts are still going strong. And, well, we're continuing our Boba Fett journey. Now, I unfortunately could not get Jedi Master Daniel or the others with me, so I'm pretty much going to be alone here with my second member here that's joining me here. You all know him, so introduce yourself.
Willy Macho Mandalorian. Oh, yeah, it's showtime.
Yep. Jango Fett joining me here for more Boba Fett goodness. And this is one of his favorites in regards to Boba Fett One-Shots, so he had to join in on this one. And it's the Boba Fett One-Shot comics set during the Dark Empire era of the Expanded Universe timeline. This one is going to be very interesting. So, without further ado, I think we should start with a quick summary of our first experiences with these Boba Fett comics. Django, you go first, because you're going to have the most out of it.
So, starting with the one-shot stories, because we're also going to be reviewing another set of stories, or one set of stories. But with this one in particular, just like all my other boring stories, I just found this in the bookstore and was intrigued by the cover because it had like this green purple vibe to it, and it just reminded me of the Dark Empire series. So, from the bookstore, I used to, like, back in the day, grab a bunch of Star Wars comics and just read it right there. Spend like an hour or two and just read a bunch of Star Wars comics. And after I read that, I was just like, kind of like a little disturbed with this comic because of how violent it gets. As a kid and stuff, so it kind of disturbed me. And I think the next story will be even more disturbing, we'll get into later. But, I just read it in the bookstore, this was like years ago, and I've always enjoyed it since.
Nice. And ironic that you mentioned it reminds you of Dark Empire, because it's the same artist.
Yep, Cam Kennedy.
Yep, that's very interesting. So,
and I think he did the coloring as well.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
That would explain it.
That too. So, yeah, that's the Django's first experience. Mine, I don't have much of it, except for a particular State of Star Wars podcast that we did a while back, talking about Dark Empire, and the Django mentioned this comics. So, that's the earliest I can think of in regards to my first experience with these comics. So, I don't have much, and I read them today, and, well, I like these comics. They were pretty cool. The art style, I really liked it from Dark Empire. In here, I liked it, though I have a few issues with it that were not present in Dark Empire, and I'll mention them as we go through along with the issues. But that's what I think in regards to my first experience. So, Django, shall we get on with the summaries of each issue?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, so this is the first one-shot Butako, Bounty on Bar-Kooda. So the summary here is that Gorga, the hut, one of the huts of Tatooine, let's just say he wanted another hut called Anakro as his fiancée, except that the father of Anakro was Orko, and Orko's a big rival of Gorga, so Gorga decides to enlist Boba Fett as his bounty hunter of choice in order to get the specific reward or gift to give to Orko in order to pretty much offer to not only Anakro but to Orko, so that way Gorga could pretty much just marry Anakro. And so Boba Fett is chasing his bounty. He's going after some random scavengers in the scrapyard city. He goes into a cantina. He's searching for apparently a magician some sort of magician, and well, he goes and finds the magician. The magician is doing several tricks in some sort of circus place. Oh, he in his car that has the big Magwit name on it, and he's doing some tricks and everything. Then the magician gets word that apparently Boba Fett's looking for him. Magician unfortunately gets one of his birds stuck in his mouth, and that caused him to die. Yeah, magician died. Oh, well, there goes the bounty. And they make a funeral on the magician. Boba Fett decides to inspect the funeral, checks the body to make sure, and he seems to be fine. That he sees that the magician's dead, so he's like, oh, it's all right, fine. Then he returns a bit later and sees they're trying to bury the coffin carrying the magician body, and he got out some syringe to get the magician to wake up, because apparently the magician was not dead. He actually was just using some sort of drug to suppress the body's functions, making it seem that he died. And well, now the magician's more than alive and awake, and Boba Fett's taking him. So there's that. And then going back to his slave one, and well, he pretty much has the price, and he's basically going to have the magician's help to get his real bounty. Now, the bounty was not the magician. It actually was the magician's earlier boss, Bar-Kooda. Yep, the one with the title. So basically, Boba Fett enlists the help of the magician in order to capture Bar-Kooda, and well, they do exactly that. They go to Bar-Kooda's ship to try to capture him, and well, Bar-Kooda decides to have the magician perform for him, and well, he performs, and and while that was happening, the magician pretty much snuck in Boba Fett into the ship, and well, Boba Fett started clearing the area behind the scenes, backstage, blasting any witnesses, getting prepared to get Bar-Kooda, and the magician, using his magic hoop that can teleport things, he pretty much offers Bar-Kooda to join in to see what it is, and Bar-Kooda goes in and gets captured by Boba Fett. So that's how it went, and Boba and the magician escaped with Bar-Kooda, and that the bounty succeeded. They also explored the big ship, and well, that was the end of that. So Boba delivers Bar-Kooda to the hut, Gorga the Hutt, and Bar-Kooda ended up being he ended up being basically the dinner for Gorga and Orga and Nakro. And that's how this issue ended.
I always found that very disturbing.
That they ate Bar-Kooda.
Yeah.
Oh my god. Like, that was something. So, that was the end of Bounty and Bar-Kooda. So, what do you think of this one, Django?
It's a good setup. I personally don't like the hut stuff. Or maybe I'll talk about it at the end. But basically, it's the hut stuff that I kind of get old with. But it is interesting how Boba kind of tricks the magician and then tricks everyone else in order to get this Bar-Kooda, who seems like he would be a bit tougher, but he ends up being beat pretty easy because it's freaking Boba Fett. So
yeah, indeed. So yeah, Boba Fett, even in this one shot, he is still being a badass as ever. By the way, one thing I forgot to mention: this comic and the other one shots, they take place at the same time as Dark Empire 1 is happening, or somewhere in the middle of Dark Empire 1 and Dark Empire 2. At least this specific one shot. So and the next two. So yeah, this is basically happening at the same time the reborn Palpatine is being alive. So we're basically seeing what Boba Fett was doing in the middle of Dark Empire 1 and 2. So this is what was going on, and why this one shots also explain what Boba Fett was doing after Dark Empire 2, which we'll get to much later. So yeah, the setting of the timeline makes sense, and it also would explain the art style of these comics. So what do you think of the art style of this one shot, Django?
I really like it. I think it's better in the Dark Empire series, just in my personal opinion, because I feel it's I mean, I feel like it here is pretty dark. It really sets the tone and the mood. And I feel like if you try to take a different artist other than Cam Kennedy to do it, it's not going to work because Empire's End showed that. Or I should say the coloring, I should say. Like, if you change the coloring for the artwork itself from this for Cam Kennedy to something else like in Empire's End, it's not going to work because Empire's End just was a horrible... It was a terribly drawn comic, and the coloring did not help with that whatsoever.
Yeah, it's because it was made by a different artist. It was not Cam Kennedy, and it tried.
Yeah, I know that. That's what I'm just trying to say. Like the coloring just didn't fit with that artist's
It
vision.
didn't.
You know?
It should have just been Cam Kennedy again.
Yeah.
So, so yeah, that's an interesting tidbit of art there. So, anything else to say on this first issue?
No.
Okay. Well, I do have one thing to say. I find it interesting that even in Star Wars we have magicians. You know, like, because I don't remember seeing magicians in Star Wars before. Maybe they exist. We just never really seen them before. Even post EU, I haven't really seen magicians performing to a live audience in Star Wars. So this is... It's interesting because I don't usually see magicians in Star Wars. I found that interesting. So
Yeah.
there is that. So now we get to the next issue. So this one is When the Fat Lady Sings. So, Django, shall you do the honors on this one?
Okay. So this ship is being chased by Slave One, Boba Fett's ship, and they carry a... Well, Boba Fett's after this guy to get this bounty, and he pretty much blasts this ship with his Slave One, and then goes inside and takes out everyone except for... Well, he pretty much kills the guy. He said that the price is on your head alone. Guessing you'll be taking me in, huh? He said, nah, not entirely. As I said, the price is on your head alone. So he emphasizes that, and he takes his head for the bounty. So you know how ruthless Boba Fett can be.
Yeah.
Boba Fett gets back on the ship, and he talks to Gorga, and he tells him that his bride has been kidnapped. So it goes back, and as they're having this big feast, they are celebrating with Gorga and the father-in-law, and so Scavers come in and take Anakra, the Gorga's beloved, and so he hires Boba Fett to track these guys down and get Anakra back. So Boba Fett is tasked with this, and then we get to a new person. You might look at him and he might seem familiar. His name is Bar-Kooda, who is the brother of Bar-Kooda, and basically he's teamed up with this little guy. I forget his name, but he's telling Bar-Kooda that his brother has been killed, and he goes berserk. And he also hears that they basically ate his brother too, and he was captured by Boba Fett. And he goes berserk on this house or tavern of sorts, and he just destroys everything. And from there, after you see this guy, you know this guy is the real deal, and seems like a more formidable foe than his brother. So we go back to Gorga. Boba's making his plan, and he goes after the Scavers, and he pretty much takes them out one by one, and he finds out that one of the guys is like this captain of sorts, was kind of doing like an inside job and wanted to get the ransom, some of the ransom for himself, and he goes to find the location. So he goes to this another location, and we also have this other group coming in with Bar-Kooda and his gang coming into the mix as well. And they're pretty much out. Bar-Kooda is on a mission to not only go after Boba Fett, but to also go after the Hutts as well, who ate his brother. So he wants just to destroy everyone. So he's on a path of vengeance. And they actually run into... So it's kind of like a weird mix. So it's Boba Fett it's the Scavers, and you have Bar-Kooda in the mix, and you also have, I think, the Hutts come in with their people as well. So it's kind of like a jumble thing going on, where it's like all four of them are all duking it out, and then you see Bar-Kooda trying to come out of his ship because it gets shot down, and he takes some blaster bolts onto his chest, and this only enrages him, and he's like screaming out, "Boba Fett!" And Boba's not there just yet, but they actually go to... Oh, Boba finds the location of this Anacro and kills these guards, and I don't know how he does it, but he manages to get Anacro on the strapped and on his speeder, and it's this funny sequence because one of the wires gets shot, and she's pretty much hanging by the neck with this thing. So it's like it's choking her. So he has to pretty much just land her on the cart, and it's almost like this Wild West sequence where it's just like going down this mine shaft, and you have the Scavers, and you also have Bar-Kooda and his gang come in, and it's funny because like Bar-Kooda comes in, and then he's like standing in the middle of the track, he's screaming out Boba Fett, and this just mine thing just comes in and just smashes him. And it's also funny too because it's like these guys are running away. They're part of Bar-Kooda's gang, and they're trying to run away, and then a Anacro comes in and squashes them as she's flying from the cart.
That was funny.
Oh god. And you think Bar-Kooda is just like some like this idiot of sorts, just running into danger and being like a mini tank, but he's no pushover. He can take a lot of damage, and he can dish a lot of damage, as he actually faces off against Boba Fett this time.
Ooh.
And they take some rockets to his chest, and he throws like a pretty heavy item, and he just is almost a match to Boba in some ways. And he's about to eat him, actually. And Boba puts like this, I think this rocket or a flamethrower into his mouth, and he gets crushed by the cavern, or the caves of sorts. And that should be the last of him. And we go on, and Boba gets Anacro and delivers her to Gorga.
Yeah. It ends with Boba pretty much getting his reward from Gorga for delivering an Anacro.
Okay.
So
Okay, gotcha.
that's where it ends.
Okay.
So what do you think of the second issue, Django?
I like how it introduces this more formidable foe in Bar-Kooda, and he seems like more of someone who can take a lot. Like this guy is like just a walking tank. And it's interesting how Boba Fett approaches the fight, because it's not like it's like, oh, you shoot him and that's it. No, he will still be out on a path of vengeance and destroy you any chance he gets. He'll grab you, he'll just choke you, he'll just he's got super strength, he's super strong, super resilient. So it's interesting how Boba Fett will approach it and divert from that. So I like this. I thought this was like a lot of action and pretty good read.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I myself also like this one shot as well. It continues with the solid art style from Cam Kennedy. It also somewhat expands on the story. Now I do have one issue with the art style, and it gets a bit prevalent in this issue and the next one. Is that with the way it's not drawn, but more like colored, it can be a bit difficult to distinguish which HUD is which one, unless you specifically read the specific accessories that they have. Like you wouldn't know that Anacra is the one that has some sort of a crown in her head, and the bracelets in her arms. Gorga has no accessory, whereas Orko has some sort of cigarette in his mouth. If you don't notice that, you could get a bit confused in knowing who is who, because you notice the colors that they all seem to be colored the same. Like it can be a bit difficult to figure out who is who. So there is that.
Yeah.
So also we we argued this sometime before, Django, that we like this art style in Dark Empire specifically because it fits well with the tone of how Dark Empire was. You know, like kind of being dark, somewhat more on the obscure side. So, and I think this art style works with Boba Fett, but there are those moments where you think where it's not really that dark, and the art and the art style may not be a bit too adequate. You know, like for the funny moments where an acro's like crushing the these cavers and other like that. That's where I think the art style maybe doesn't fit too well because you know the art style is supposed to reflect a darker tone overall, so a bit of clashing there, but not to the point in which it ruins the comic. Like it still works for what it is. So
Yeah, I mean, like the humor is like definitely like a highlight for this as well. I mean, like the coloring doesn't fit with that because with Dark Empire, when with the coloring going on, it just feels like it's more of a, you know, as you said, darker tone, but it's also you feel like the dark side is just like imbued with like this story and stuff. You can feel it like oozing all around, you know.
yes,
So with this, with the humorous moments, that can hurt that, but it definitely like I don't know. It just has a good sense to it. It's not like a story like that's super serious. Like there is some good, you know, good moments, good funny moments.
yeah. Yeah, indeed. It doesn't ruin it, so it is cool. I think the art style worked a bit better with the first issue, the first one shot, if you ask me. It's mostly because it doesn't have the big funny moments, you know, clashing with the tone of the art style. But yeah, so I thought it was a good one. I find I find it interesting that Bar-Kooda doesn't have any sort of dialogue, but Boba Fett, and he just wants to kill the shit out of him. I haven't seen anybody like want to kill Boba Fett with an absolute burning passion, but that guy. So
Yeah, I don't think so either.
yep. So it is interesting. So anyway, any other things to mention in this one, Django?
No.
Okay, well, I guess we'll go to the next issue then. The final one in this small arc before we get to the other one shot. So, okay, now I'll go with this one. So, in here, Anacro is basically on the palace of Gorga being treated by a doctor because she was having some sort of tingling in his stomach, and turns out that it's because she's pregnant. Dun dun dun. So she is gonna have a son. Damn, that's gonna be some news. So yeah, and while that's going on, Boba Fett gets summoned by Gorga to basically kill Orko once and for all. Oh yeah, Gorga wants that in order to because Orko's still being a nuisance for him. But Boba's like that can be a bit of a problem. So Gorga's like, name your price, $500,000. What? And that definitely is something. 10% to just look into the possibility, and Gorga's like, okay, fine. And they and Boba Fett goes to Orca to see how it's going. And well, while Fett is going, Anacro is given the news to Gorga that she is pregnant. And Gorga's surprised, and at that point he's like, oh shit, oh fuck, call Fett, stop him. And well, we'll see if he actually stops.
And just to point out that the reason that he stops it too is because if the wife actually gets upset or at any point, it's a very delicate matter. So if something happens, like her father dies or something, and she gets upset, the Hutling could die in the process.
Oof, that's definitely unique among Huts. So that's interesting. So then Fett is traveling to Orkana, the poisoned land, as they call it, apparently because it seems to be filled with all sorts of radioactive and shitty substances, toxic waste, chemical, biological, that sort of shit that you stay away from. And so he's just bursting through in his speeder, just going. Some scabbers try to, not scabbers, some guards of Orca try to stop him, but well, Fett. It's Boba Fett. You're not gonna stop him at all. So Orca gets the news from Anacro that she's pregnant, and Orca's like basically like like Orca's trying to pay my money now out of me, not subtle. Fun fact: the servant of Orca wanted to kill him for a while, and he tries again, and well, obvious. Well, you'll see how that goes. Meanwhile, Boba Fett is still getting in. He's taking down some of the guards, and then he gets into the main door, and well. And while the serpent was close to killing Orca, let's just say Boba Fett intervened by slapping the door in the serpent's face. So I guess Orca was saved in there. And well, Boba Fett seems like he's going to kill Orca, but no, actually, he asks a favor to Orko to basically he basically tells Orca that he was contracted to eliminate Orca, but Boba's like, I could be persuaded if you basically 600,000 credits for me to be your protector. And Orca basically is like, okay, fine. And then Boba decides to basically he is forced to wait in Orca's palace or Orca's bedchamber right up there to see how it goes, and so he stays there. Unfortunately, something is climbing on top of Orca's tower, and well, let's just say that something with big sharp teeth is hungry, and Orca is fucking dead. And well, some people are blaming Boba Fett on that one, but Boba Fett's like, stand aside, I need to see what the hell happened. And Boba Fett is arriving at the scene, and he sees the body of Orca, and whoa, shit, Orca was like
brutal.
Yeah, it was brutal, like devoured. The servant also freaking dead. Like, holy shit. Boba Fett's analyzing the scene, and he basically finds or thinks who it have been, and so he goes back to warn the others. And so the comic decides to flash us a bit back as to Boss, which is the small sidekick of Bar-Kooda, the small annoying guy, and that small guy was threatened by two people. We're going to basically two of the servants. They were going to shoot at Boss because Bar-Kooda is not around, but Bar-Kooda turned out survived, and he's more pissed off than ever. And well, that flashback scene aside, we get back to Boba Fett contacting Gorga, telling Gorga that no, I didn't kill Orca. It was Bar-Kooda. And well, and basically, and Gorga's like, oh fuck, Fett, come here, help me, protect me. I'll pay you well. I'll pay you all those 500,000 credits, I swear. And Fett's like, oh, and Fett just like leaves the place and goes. And well, Fett basically decides to go. Fortunately, Gorga gets the news that, well, Anacro decided to visit Orca, thinking that Gorga orchestrated a plan to kill Orca. But fortunately, it was not Gorga's hand who killed Orca, it was Bar-Kooda, and well, we saw what happened with Orca, so imagine the wife with the kid. Oh boy. And well, she's going in the speeder. The speeder gets intercepted by Bar-Kooda and its gang, and well, oh boy. Bar-Kooda is getting close to eating the shit out of Anacro. And Gorga arrives, but he's unable to do something because his servant, Dink, decided to run like a fucking coward, because of course. And well, Gorga's just standing there and seeing how, oh god, Bar-Kooda's almost going to eat Anacro until something shot at Bar-Kooda, and of course, it was Boba Fett. And well, Boba Fett and Bar-Kooda are getting a rematch. And of course, Bar-Kooda is basically pissed beyond hell and wants to beat the shit out of Boba Fett, maybe even eat him alive. And so the battle ensues. Battles going on, definitely somewhat brutal. Bar-Kooda's even throwing stuff at Boba Fett. And, well, battles going on. And, it seems that Boba's almost going to get wrecked, but, well, it's Boba Fett. He pretty much just shot a dart into Bar-Kooda's face and shoot him some more bullets and threw him into several cans of toxic chemical wastes, which pretty much Bar-Kooda fell on, and the chemicals were absolutely disintegrating the shit out of him. And that was the end of Bar-Kooda for good. And so that... Oh, and by the way, Boss was like pretty pissed, but Boba Fett is like, screw you, and it just kicks the shit out of the little crater because he can't do shit. And, well, then we transition to Anakro and Gorga talking, and apparently Anakro already had the little baby Hutlet. And, well, the baby Hutlet goes, says hi to its parents, and so there's that. Boba then gets to Gorga and tells him that the reason why he had to kill Bar-Kooda is because Bar-Kooda would have hunted Boba Fett down no matter what. So he had to make sure to absolutely kill him. And, well, that's how it went. And, well... Oh, and by the way, Gorga decided to hire the coward assistant again, because why not? And Boss decides to put all sorts of revenge promises to Boba Fett, which never happened later on. So there's that, and Boba Fett just went and left, and that was the end of this issue. So that was this third issue, which was called The Murder Most Foul. So, what do you think of this one, Django?
So very good. I like the fight with and Boba Fett. That was just worth it alone. And yeah, it's just a good way to end it. You know, Boba Fett is just almost unstoppable. But you know, I think Bar-Kooda, from seeing this particular story, like he is like the closest that has ever gone toe to toe with Boba Fett and actually been a bit of a match. You know, in a ways.
Yeah.
Definitely. Even though he lost.
Yeah, indeed. This is no Boba Fett versus Darth Vader, where the only reason Fett survives because it was because of that headless head of the princess. So, but in here, yeah, it was mostly even, but Boba Fett still won. So there is that. If I noticed that the art style here actually matched better, because you notice the tone wasn't necessarily as comical as in the second issue. It actually was a bit more darker, and I actually think it fit a lot better. So yeah, Cam Kennedy in this one and the first issue, he definitely nailed it. Second one was good, but definitely some outlier portions that made it seem that they didn't fit. But in the first, second, and third issue, he did great. So in those, I have no complaints on the art style itself. So, indeed. Also, can we mention just how brutally Orko was killed or eaten?
I was about to mention that.
Oh my god, like that's some...
They actually showed that too. Like, not him being eaten, but like you can see like the visceral image. I was just like, I was pretty disturbed by that.
Yeah, that you don't get to see that always. Like that's some
violent.
Yeah, that's close. That's getting close to R-rated levels of Star Wars here, like close. But damn, even the tail was like cut, and the blood is there.
Yep.
Like, yeah, this is definitely some.
You can see like bite marks on top of the head. Like that was just. Ugh.
Yeah, definitely. Like, holy shit, this definitely was a brutal one. So, yeah, holy shit, and. That Bar-Kooda, definitely some savage. And he was going to eat. Oh, and by the way, he was going to eat an acro from the tail, starting with the tail. Like, holy shit, that guy was. Holy shit, that's some carnivorous. If Fett was not there, holy shit, that would have been. Yeah, that guy's insane. So, yeah. So, any other things to say on this one shot, Django?
I think as a whole, these stories, I feel like they're all connected. I don't feel like they're like one-shot stories, in my personal opinion, because it's like, it seems like one continuous story, but of course when they released it as one-shot stories, but as you read it all together, it's like it doesn't feel like a one shot at all. Like it's just one continuous story.
Yeah, that is true. So it is a bit odd, but given that they are one shots, we're gonna have to treat the release as one shots. We kind of have to treat them as one shots. But yes, the story is based. The story of these three definitely is more like a 3-issue comic in itself. So yeah. So shall we get on with the last one shot, Django?
All right, let's do it.
Okay. Well, you do the honors on this one.
Okay, so the next story is Boba Fett Agent of Doom. And this one is drawn or written by John Ostrander, which is awesome, and art by Kim Kennedy. But this one's a little bit different because the coloring is not done by Kim Kennedy. It's actually painted or colored just regularly. So it's not as like the previous stories that we just mentioned before. But this one, I think, is after these sets of stories that we just reviewed, Death, Lies, and Treachery.
It's after those three and after Dark Empire 2. So this is actually the aftermath of what Boba Fett was doing after Dark Empire 2.
Okay, gotcha. So it's still set 10 years after the Battle of Yavin, which is still the same time, or the same year for the same Death, Lies, and Treachery stories. But anyway, let's get right into the story. Okay. So, this particular alien, green alien of sorts, is telling the story to Boba Fett. So, he tells him that the Empire came to this planet called Gulma, and pretty much takes these people, these aliens, to their ship. The exact purpose is kind of unknown. It's just, they just want to take them and just do the worst things imaginable to these creatures, these poor creatures. They didn't do anything. So, the Empire does unimaginable things to these creatures. And even in death, they are used to power this particular ship, which is I think it's a Dark Empire creature. I forget what it's called. World Devastators? I think that's what it's called.
This actually is not a World Devastator. It's actually a different type of ship. It's
much smaller, but it looks like one.
It does look like one, but it's actually some sort of Imperial dungeon ship called the Asgok.
Asgok, okay. So it's not, okay. It looks like a World Devastator, but it's not. Yeah, World Devastators are ginormous, so.
Yeah.
But anyway, they are just, the best comparison to these group is, like, they're performing like this Holocaust, or the genocide of sorts. To these creatures, these poor creatures. And it's very comparable to the Holocaust of what happened with the Jews, with the Nazis and the persecuting the Jews for no reason, or blaming them for particular reasons. But anyway, that's really the comparison. And the captain of this particular ship, let's see, his name is Admiral Murtoch, and the chief scientist on board, Dr. Leonis Mirth, are committing to this Emperor's vision of cleansing the galaxy of all but humans. This captain or admiral, he was brutal, cold, and efficient, and he committed murder with the precision of a clock. Mirth kept his laboratories going day and night. He commanded the laboratories, finding new means to make beings die, and how long he could make them scream for. He could do anything he wanted, for we were only animals to them. So they said, and we were so plentiful. Once one species died out, there was always another. So they would just persecute them for just this insane reason. And then towards the end, I guess towards the end of the war, the Azog was actually attacked by the rebels, or the rebellion at the time. Yeah, the rebels attacked the Azog, and they freed the captives, but the Admiral and the Doctor escaped. So he asked Boba Fett asked, "What do you want from me?" And he says, "Justice. It is not right that they live, and we want them dead." And he tells him, he asked him, like, "Well, what's the price?" He's like, 100 credits. He's like, "Are you kidding me? Like, that's it?" I mean, he puts a gun to his head. He's like, I should just kill you right now. Why insult me with just this paltry offering? And he convinces Boba Fett that I didn't think would be possible. But I feel like Boba Fett has changed since that has made him accept it. So he basically says that I thought your name was a name to conjure fear. Before the Jedi fed you to the Sarlacc. And he says, if you do this, it will not be because of the money. It will be so that all know who Boba Fett is. And he accepts the contract right there. I was just like, what? That's crazy.
I mean, it is true. In order for I mean, it is true. It's not just, this is more about reputation than money, and actually, it makes sense given that if you take into consideration, Boba Fett has not really had a good track record since he fell into the Sarlacc pit. Yes, he still was doing stuff, and he definitely beat the shit out of Joro Cast comic we talked about before. But considering how many times Han Solo has escaped Boba Fett's hands, and of course Han Solo himself pretty much throwing him into the Sarlacc pit, yeah, Boba Fett could definitely use some sort of help boosting his reputation. And not to mention, in the long term, it actually would mean far better bounties for him to tackle. So, with bigger riches, like more targets and stuff. So actually, in the long term, this was definitely the right move to do. So, would it makes more sense the long term wise why taking this job was worth it for him. And not to mention, his targets were not really... They were former Empire, but considering that the Imperial Remnant right now... Because remember, this is at the same time the Dark Empire 2... Well, actually a bit after Dark Empire 2. So somewhere between that and Empire's End, the Imperial Remnant is facing the New Republic. So it's more like this faction just wants to kill the aliens. It's just out by themselves. So Boba Fett has nothing to lose. In fact, he has more to gain. So...
Right.
So it makes more sense why. So anyway, continue.
Okay. So Boba Fett accepts the contract, and from there he finds the location of the ship. And it's kind of weird because they actually have the same exact ship that was down by the rebellion, but I guess they found a way to escape, and then they come back to the ship, and then are still doing their sadistic things going on. Mm-hmm. So it goes to the captain and the scientist, and this scene was really disturbed me quite a bit. I think this story is just it creeps you out. It scares you of how much the violence and the torture is just shown to you, and it's not something that you really see in any other Star Wars media out there. Mm-hmm. But this guy, the scientist, he's torturing these people. Not for science, but for simple pleasure. I mean, that's his exact words. And the guy, they're all sadists. The people who are doing this, just to kill these creatures, the aliens. And he's using a lightsaber to torture somebody. I don't know how he got the lightsaber, but he got that lightsaber. So Boba Fett gets a plan. He gets like a turret or something, and he downs the ship. I think on the same planet that they were all captured in. And the captain is like, hey, what's going on? Why is the ship down? And Boba Fett appears. He says, I want torque, want mirth, rest can go or die. And then Boba Fett just blows the ship open, and he practically kills the whole lot of them. And he frees some the aliens, the captives. And one of them's like, hey, you come to save us? He's like, more of you than them. Save yourself, man. And then you can just use the guns. And he counters the scientist, who's using a lightsaber, and he easily dodges all of his attacks, because he's not a Jedi at all. And Boba Fett even says, Jedi weapon doesn't make you a Jedi. And he uses a flamethrower to burn him alive. And he's like the nerve of this guy. He says, kill me in the name of decency. Kill me. I mean, are you absolutely insane? Like, you are a sadistic man. You enjoy slowly torturing people, and you want to be killed right away. Like, fuck you. You deserve it. So that was like one moment I was just like, you deserve all the pain you get, Mm-hmm. So Boba actually meets up with the captain, and He's like, think before you pull that trigger. The self-destruct switch is activated. Even in death, I can and will destroy the ship and everyone on it, including you. He's like, okay, see, I'll find you later and then hunt you down. He's like, hey, wait, what are you doing? No, I'm not ready. I'm not doing that. And he decides to shoot at him, but misses. And so as Boba is actually turning his back to him, he tries to shoot him, and Boba Fett does like this old like cowboy western thing, and he turns back and just shoots him in the gut. And then the scientist comes out, and he's like, yeah, I'm gonna kill you with the lightsaber, and then Boba Fett just shoots him in the head.
Lol.
And he just gets their heads, and the aliens are like, sir, what do we do now? He's like, just take the planet, call for help, it's up to you. My name is Boba Fett, remember that. So he approaches the guy, the old man, who is in his deathbed, and he gives him the money. And Boba Fett, he's like, here's the proof. And the guy says, there's no need for you to say it. They are dead, then they are dead. After all, you are Boba Fett. Yes, you are. And he just says yes, and he just walks away, and the guy dies right there with the heads in the bags. So, yeah, I mean that's the story right there.
Yeah, it is one way to end it there.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, this one, right off the bat, I'll mention that the art style was definitely, it's the same one, Camp Kennedy, but definitely the colors were different. So
I liked it more, the coloring.
Oh, really?
I mean, just for this particular story.
Yeah, I could see that. I also did like it. So yeah, I didn't think it was odd. I actually think it was cool. For some reason, there are a few parts where you see Boba Fett's helmet's like missing some parts of his cheek. If you noticed, I don't know why it's that, but oh well. And Boba Fett's design a few times it looks a bit weird, like in those cheek parts that I said in his helmet, but that's about it. So yeah, art style was pretty good. Story was definitely an interesting one, even if it's just a one shot. Definitely, and it's definitely a dark one, which for this art style helps. So yeah, I think Star Wars Lucasfilm definitely knew well when to use Camp Kennedy and not overuse him. That definitely was. They used him well because they only used him for Dark Empire and these Boba Fett comics, right? I don't think they ever used him again.
Yeah,
because...
I don't know. I can't think of it.
Oh, okay. Well, he only did the covers for... other things he did is the covers of classic Star Wars, Jabba the Hutt, and Star Wars Tales 18. It says that he did actually make the art for Star Wars Empire issue 7. So that's the only other comic that has his art style. But yeah, so this is I guess the second to last comic that we see Camp Kennedy doing art. So yeah, that definitely a good way to send him off for a while. And yeah, definitely interesting one shot. So what else you got to say on this one, Django?
I love this story. I think it's one of my favorites. By far, and it's a pretty short read, but it's definitely, I mean, because it's done by John Ostrander, and he can craft an excellent story, even in a one issue story, he can do it. And this one has like the dynamic between Nazis and the persecuted Jews in World War II. So I just found it, like I've said this word like a million times already in this video, but it is truly disturbing what they're showing in this comic, and it's actually showing that Boba Fett, even despite all his flaws, he's actually doing a good thing by killing these sons of bitches. Like he is doing a really good favor for everyone in the galaxy, because these two will definitely not be missed whatsoever. But even in the Empire, but Boba Fett is doing actually truly good things by killing these particular people.
And not for the money in this case, which is the interesting thing to notice.
Yeah. I mean, I think this just shows how good of a character Boba Fett is. He's not still like a heartless person. He's actually still has some morals to him. He's not a truly heartless human being, despite what we've seen throughout many of his stories.
Yeah, even though he may still be heartless, him doing this will still benefit him in the long term in terms of monetary and reputation wise. So he didn't go away unscathed, but besides just doing a good thing, so it still helped him in the long run for that.
Yeah.
So, yep. Well, any final things to mention on this one?
No.
Okay. Well, in that case, now we go into the expanded universe connections with these comics, and here's where it gets interesting because we actually have a fair bit amount of EU connections on these comics, starting with Bounty on Bar-Kooda, the first three one shots. So one of the biggest ones is Gorga the Hutt himself. He basically has been featured in several sources of Star Wars, from not only Star Wars, the Boba Fett young adult books from the Clone Wars multimedia project. Yeah, he's shown in Maze Deception, mentioned in content. He's also Gorga's even mentioned in Star Wars Bounty Hunter, the video game. And he of course is also featured in the Clone Wars 2008, so there's that too. But surprisingly, Gorga was actually first mentioned in the Essential Guide to Characters before being featured in this comic, in these three comics. So yeah, this is not it is his first appearance, but it's not his first ever like mention or even like being mentioned in Star Wars in general. Like it's not Mountain Bar-Kooda. It's actually the Essential Guide to Characters. Like that. That's very interesting. Like a character from an Essential Guide is first mentioned in the Essential Guide and is then featured into the comic. Like that in the 90s especially, which is a new one. Like that's a new one. So that is very interesting. Other sources that the Deathlight's Treachery, which is the omnibus that has the first three one-shots we talked about. They also have the Essential Guide to Weapons Technology, Star Wars Boba Fett, which is actually some sort of a magazine, a one-shot magazine that talks all about Boba Fett. Also, there's the official Star Wars fact files. So some of them they go into, some of them are 97, 140, or 130. So there's those. There's also the complete Star Wars Encyclopedia, of course, because why not? So there is that. There's also some other few. For example, one of the rats in when the fat lady swings, it's actually a Knev, and that was actually featured in Boba Fett: Enemy of the Empire. Yeah, a small reference from this comic showed up in Enemy of the Empire, even if it was just a corpse. So
we did review that, guys. So check that review out.
Yeah. So definitely that was definitely interesting, and well, there's that. There's also there are also some characters here appear in something called the Jabba tape, which is some sort of a comic serial that was written by John Wagner. It came out it is actually in the Star Wars Galaxy magazine. So,
just to let you guys know, I think some of because you mentioned Insider, I think they're actually going to have Insider Volume 1 Legends paperback that's going to come out pretty soon. So that could come out there. So that's something that we should look out for, guys.
Oh yeah, definitely. Oh, speaking of Insider, okay, there are a few characters and stuff that are featured in Star Wars Insider. Now, obviously, Gorga would be one of them in some of them. So that'll be one. There's a few others as well. So yeah, there's plenty of references. That guy, Boss, the small critter, he actually appeared in several other things like Pod Racing Tales, the Jabba tape, of course. Even in Enemy of the Empire, his race appeared there. Like his race. Boss himself appears only in these one-shots, but his race actually has been featured in other places. So
I fucking hated that guy.
there's that. Of course, some of the planets that first appeared here in these comics, they show up in the Essential Atlas. Of course, they had to do that. The ship Asgok from Agent of Doom, that actually first appeared in Star Wars Insider, Insider 66, Who's Who Imperial Grand Admirals. So, actually, it's first appeared in Agent of Doom, but Star Wars Insider featured that ship. So, yep, there's connections to Star Wars Insider and several of the guides. So yeah, that's pretty damn interesting. That same Star Wars Insider also features several other things besides the ship. Also, if I'm not mistaken, the one of the previous owners of that ship also was featured in that Insider. It actually tells that story. So there is that. So yeah, there's plenty of connections here in these four issues. In fact, some of these connections will definitely be used and even affect the EU, not only timeline wise, but also in terms of continuity connections and references. Gorga the Hutt being the main one, of course. So yeah, these comics definitely did plenty to definitely connect to the expanded universe. Like, they definitely played a big role. And I think that's pretty damn awesome. So, yeah. Did Django got any essential guides there or any other connections you want to mention?
I can't think of any, to be honest. Yeah, I mean, I looked through the Pablo Hidalgo's book, and they don't really mention it. Any of the Boba Fett stories. These stories.
I don't get it. Why does that Reader's Companion want to not mention any of these Boba Fett one-shots? Like, why does it have to be the other third-generation guides? You know, the Essential Atlas and the complete Star Wars Cyclopedia. Like, why are those the only ones that have to mention this comic? Seriously? Just why?
Yeah, I mean, like, you would think they would mention the comics in Pablo Hidalgo's book, but it's just like, even that doesn't even mention many of the comics or the unknown comics. Only the big comics, like Enemy of the Empire and the big Boba Fett story with that. But it's just like you don't have all of the these stories. Like, that just doesn't seem right at all.
Yeah, it does seem right. Thankfully, the Essential Atlas at least has them, and that being third generation means that these are fully C canon, no matter what the Essential Reader's Companion does by not featuring them. So that is pretty good. Also, there's the complete Star Wars Cyclopedia, even if that may have been a bit outdated later on because it's a 2008 encyclopedia. But this being featured in the encyclopedia as well, and even in the new Essential Chronology actually. As well as the essential guide to the new essential guide to droids and technology and stuff. So yeah, these stories definitely remain C canon even till the end. So it's good because these are good stories and they definitely are worth checking out. So it's awesome. So any final things to say on EU connections?
No.
Okay. Well, I guess that leads to the conclusion of these one-shots. So, Django, you go first.
Okay. So, first starting off with Death, Lies, and Treachery. This is like, if you're okay, let me just say it for both stories in particular. Death, Lies, and Treachery and Agent of Doom. If you're a Boba Fett fan, or you're interested in Boba Fett whatsoever, you have to read these stories. They are must read. They're excellent stories filled with plenty of action, suspense. Well, not so much suspense, action, humor. Disturbing, violent moments at times. But it retains Boba Fett's character in every way and what you imagine Boba Fett to be. Death, Lies, and Treachery, has the action, has Boba Fett being the badass, of course. But it still has like this interesting story. But I feel like even Agent of Doom, I feel like... Okay, I'm going to say this now. I think that's the best comic Boba Fett story I've read so far. Just after reading it again, I feel like it's such a great and effective story in every way. The artwork is great. The story is really pays attention to what the dynamics are with, real world history and stuff. And it actually paints Boba Fett as a good person. In a twisted way. So I think if you're a Boba Fett fan, you have to read these stories. If you're doing yourself a huge disservice if you've never read any of these stories. And even if you're brand new, you never read any of the Boba Fett stories, these are the stories you have to read. You have to jump in and you have to read these stories.
Yep, indeed. So, as for me, well, I think these comics definitely are great for Boba Fett fans. Easy must read them. Like they're great. They're awesome. I highly recommend them. They're excellent. Read them. If you already read Dark Empire before this, it will help. It will definitely be help a little bit to at least know what was Boba Fett doing pre Dark Empire 2 and post Dark Empire 2. So yeah, definitely read this. It definitely great reads. Also, can I mention that I like how they reference Boba Fett surviving the Sarlacc pit. So that that definitely is interesting. For those viewers that have not noticed, we have been doing one of the reasons why we've been doing this Boba Fett EU podcast, because in Mandalorian season 2 from Disney Star Wars, they brought Boba Fett back from the Sarlacc pit. So it was the single biggest reason why we started doing these Boba Fett comics in the first place. And so we definitely continued with this one. And until Mandalorian season 2 ends, we'll continue to do this. So until that goes. So that's the big reason why we've been doing this Boba Fett comics, mostly because Mandalorian season 2 hype, Boba Fett return, as well as Mandalorians. So yeah.
To keep everyone aware of what Boba Fett was like and all these different stories. So if you're interested in reading these stories, we will tell you, basically.
Yeah, definitely. Basically giving the alternative for EU fans that don't really want too much to see Star Wars. We're here to give you these stories if you want to see Boba Fett survive the Sarlacc pit in the EU. So yeah, that's what we gotta say. So next time we're gonna be tackling, is it gonna be a Boba Fett story? Is it gonna be maybe a Jango Fett story? We'll see. But either one, it must have something related to Boba Fett. So we'll see you guys on the next EU podcast next week. Bye, guys.
See you guys.